We all have some behavior that we would like to change about ourselves. And we certainly all want to help someone else change their behavior in a positive way. Maybe it's your kid, your spouse, your colleague. I want to share some new research with you that reveals something important about what gets people to change their behavior. But before I do that, let's zoom in on one strategy that I think you probably use a lot. Let's say you're trying to stop yourself from snacking. What do you tell yourself? Most people in a monologue will say, "Beware, you'll be fat." If this was your kid, you would probably tell him that smoking kills, and by the way, he's in big trouble. We're trying to scare ourselves and others into changing their behavior. It's not just us. Warnings and threats are common in health campaigns and policy, because we all share this deep-rooted belief that if you threaten people, fear is induced, it will get them to act. It seems like a reasonable assumption, except for the fact that science shows warnings have very limited impact on behavior. For example, graphic images on cigarette packets do not deter smokers from smoking. One study found that after looking at those images, quitting actually became a lower priority for smokers. I'm not saying warnings and threats never work, but on average, they have a very limited impact. Buddhist insight. The Buddha taught that fear and aversion are part of the cycle of suffering, dukkha. When we act out of fear, we often become paralyzed or react irrationally. True change comes from understanding and mindfulness, not from fear. So the question is, why are we resistant to warning? If you think about animals, when you induce fear in an animal, the most common response you will see is freezing or fleeing. Fighting, not as much. Humans are the same. If something scares us, we tend to shut down and try to eliminate the negative feelings. We might use rationalizations, like telling ourselves, "My grandpa smoked. He lived to be 90, so I have good genes and nothing to worry about." This process can make you feel more resilient than before, which is why warnings sometimes have a boomerang effect. Other times, we simply put our head in the ground. Buddhist insight. In Buddhism, this is akin to the concept of ignorance, avidya, where we ignore the true nature of reality and cling to comforting but false beliefs. Take the stock market, for example. When the market is high, people log in all the time because positive information makes you feel good, so you seek it out. When the market is low, people avoid logging in because negative information makes us feel bad, so we avoid it altogether. This is true as long as bad information can reasonably be avoided. In many different parts of our life, we have warning signs and bad behaviors now. They could potentially lead to bad outcomes later, but not necessarily so because there are different routes from your present to your future. As time passes, you gather more information about where the wind is blowing. At any point, you can intervene and potentially change the outcome, but that takes energy. You might tell yourself, "What's the point about worrying about something that might happen? It might not happen." Until we reach this point, at which time you do jump into action, but sometimes it's too late. In my lab, we wanted to know what type of information leaks into people. We conducted an experiment asking approximately 100 people to estimate the likelihood of 80 different negative events that might happen to them in the future. For example, what is the likelihood that you'll suffer hearing loss in your future? Let's say you think it's about 50%. Then, I give you the opinion of two different experts. Expert A tells you, for someone like you, I think it's only 40%. Expert B says, I actually think it's about 60%. It's worse. What should you do? People tend to change their beliefs towards a more desirable opinion. In other words, people listen to the positive information. This study was conducted on college students, so you might say, college students are delusional, right? We all know that. As we grow older, we grow wiser. So, we tested people from the age of 10 until the age of 80, and the answer was yes. In all age groups, people take in information they want to hear more than information they don't want. Buddhist insight. This aligns with the Buddhist understanding of attachment, tanha, pleasant experiences, and aversion to unpleasant ones, which prevents us from seeing reality as it is. Our mistake as teachers, mentors, employers is that instead of working with this positive image people so effortfully maintain, we try and put a clear mirror in front of them. We tell them, the image is just going to get worse and worse and worse. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the brain will frantically try to distort the image using Photoshop and fancy lenses until it gets the image it's happy with. What would happen if we went along with how our brain works and not against it? Take hand washing, for example. We all know hand washing is the number one way to prevent the spread of disease, and this is really important in hospitals. In a hospital here in the United States, a camera was installed to see how often medical staff sanitize their hands before and after entering a patient's room. The medical staff knew a camera was installed. Nevertheless, only 1 in 10 washed their hands before and after entering a patient's room. But then an intervention was introduced, an electronic board that told the medical staff how well they were doing. Every time you washed your hands, the numbers went up on the screen showing the rate of your current shift and the weekly staff rate. What happened? Boom. Compliance raised to 90%. This can be related to the concept of mindfulness, sati, where constant awareness and attention to our actions can lead to better habits and behaviors. It works well because instead of using warnings about bad things that can happen in the future, it uses 3 principles that really drive your mind and behavior: social incentives, immediate rewards, and progress monitoring. Buddhist insight. The Buddha also emphasized the importance of community, sangha, and positive reinforcement through good karma, actions, and driving personal change. Let me explain. First is social incentives. In the hospital study, the medical staff could see what other people were doing. We're social people. We really care what others are doing. We want to do the same and do it better. The British government used this principle to get people to pay taxes on time. In an old letter sent to people who forgot to pay taxes, they simply stressed how important it was to pay taxes. Didn't help. Then they added one sentence: 9 out of 10 people in Britain pay their taxes on time. This sentence enhanced compliance within that group by 15%, thought to bring £5.6 billion to the British government. The other principle is immediate rewards. Every time the staff washed their hands, they could see the numbers go up on the board, and it made them feel good. Knowing that in advance made them do something they might otherwise not want to do. Studies show that giving people immediate rewards makes them more likely to quit smoking, more likely to start exercising, and this effect lasts for at least 6 months. Buddhist insight. Immediate rewards can be likened to the concept of immediate results from good deeds or wholesome actions, encouraging continued practice and positive behavior. The third principle is progress monitoring. The electronic board focused the medical staff's attention on improving their performance. What we found was that the brain does a good job at processing positive information about the future, but not such a good job at processing negative information about the future. Progress monitoring is akin to self-reflection and continuous mindfulness in Buddhism, where one constantly observes and improves their thoughts and action. What does this mean? If you're trying to get people's attention, highlight the progress, not the decline. For example, tell a kid with a cigarette, "If you stop smoking, you'll become better at sports." Highlight the progress, not the decline. Before I sum up, let me share a small anecdote. A few weeks ago, I got home and found a bill on my fridge. I was surprised because there's never any bills on my fridge. I wondered why my husband put that on our fridge. Looking at the bill, I saw it was trying to get me to be more efficient with my electricity use. How? Social incentives, immediate rewards, and progress monitoring. Here's how it works. In gray is the average energy use of people in my neighborhood. In blue is my energy use, and in green is the most efficient neighbor. My immediate reaction was, I'm a little bit better than average. And my husband had the same reaction. I want to get to the green bar. I got a smiley face as an immediate reward, telling me, you're doing good, which made me want to put this on my fridge. Although I have one smiley face, I see an opportunity for 2 smiley faces. The bill showed my progress throughout the year and gave me a sense of control over my electricity use. Buddhist insight. This sense of control is similar to the Buddhist practice of mindfulness and intentional living, where one takes responsibility for their actions and their consequence. So what am I not saying? I'm not saying we don't need to communicate risks. And I'm not saying there's a one-solution-fits-all solution. But if we understand how the mind works, we can use this knowledge to better communicate and encourage positive behavior change. The Buddha taught that understanding the nature of the mind is essential for overcoming suffering. By understanding how our minds work, we can apply skillful means, upaya, to foster positive changes. Now, let's sum up the 3 principles that drive behavior change: social incentives, immediate rewards, and progress monitoring. These principles align with Buddhist teachings in several ways. Social incentives. As social beings, we are influenced by those around us. In Buddhism, the Sangha, or community, plays a crucial role in supporting individual practice and fostering a sense of belonging and accountability. Buddhist insight. The Sangha serves as a source of inspiration and guidance, encouraging positive behaviors and reinforcing the practice of the Dharma. Immediate rewards. The idea of receiving immediate feedback or rewards for our actions can be motivating. In Buddhism, the concept of karma suggests that our actions have immediate and future consequences, encouraging us to act mindfully and ethically. Buddhist insight. Understanding karma helps us see the immediate benefits of positive actions and the long-term consequences of negative ones, motivating us to cultivate wholesome behaviors. Progress monitoring. Keeping track of our progress helps us stay focused and motivated. In Buddhism, mindfulness, sati, involves continuous self-awareness and reflection, which aids in personal development and the cultivation of good habits. Buddhist insight. Mindfulness allows us to observe our actions and their effects, enabling us to make adjustments and continue improving on our spiritual path. By incorporating these principles, we can create environments that support positive behavior change. For example, in the hospital study, the use of an electronic board to monitor hand-washing compliance effectively increased the behavior by providing real-time feedback and highlighting social norms. Similarly, in our personal lives, we can use these principles to encourage ourselves and others to adopt healthier habits. Instead of focusing on negative outcomes, we can highlight the benefits of positive behaviors and provide immediate, positive reinforcement. Buddhist insight. The Buddha's teachings emphasize the importance of positive reinforcement through the cultivation of good karma and the support of a mindful community. By creating a supportive environment and focusing on positive changes, we can overcome our natural resistance to warnings and threats. In conclusion, if we want to help ourselves and others change behavior, we need to work with the way our brains naturally process information. By leveraging social incentives, immediate rewards, and progress monitoring, we can create a more effective and compassionate approach to behavior change. Buddhist insight, compassion, karuna, is at the heart of Buddhist practice. By understanding how our minds work and applying this knowledge with compassion, we can help ourselves and others achieve lasting positive change. Thank you for listening, and I hope these insights will help you in your journey towards positive behavior change.